Sarah, what a wonderful view we have here. Let's start first with a bit of history so our listeners know a little bit about the orchard. Something about, like, this goes back like 100 years?
It does. Where the orchard is over 100 years old, not in our family for those 100 years, but the second family, my husband's father came here in 1965. So we've been here for 52 years. And then my husband and I are the second generation, and our children are both interested in coming back to the farm. So kind of everything all of us have ever done have been about looking forward and sustaining. And we're in a part of the orchard that are the probably the oldest trees now. It's all in transition, but they're old and gnarly and beautiful and still just productive enough to hang on.
Now, this orchard's been through a few changes over the years. Can you cover some of that for us?
Sure. I guess we'd identify, like, if I had to describe what was happening, it would be about adding value, because we're landlocked and we're on 40 acres, which for a farm is a small plot of land. Okay. So we, when my husband's family came here, everything was sold off the farm to processing, so there wasn't any direct-to-consumer market. And so the first thing that was changed was my father-in-law added, we called it home trade, so people could come here and buy apples, and he also delivered apples to local people. And then he added a sweet cider press. So we started pressing what the rest of the world outside of the United States calls juice. And in the United States, we call it sweet cider. Thank you, Prohibition. But anyway, and then if you fast forward 50 years, we did the same kind of thing, adding value so we could keep our farm sustainable by adding hard cider. And it's basically just taking the sweet juice and fermenting it. And so there we are. Yep.
You know what's neat? When we walked in, you offered us, kindly, graciously offered us some cider. I said, no thanks, because I didn't want anything sweet. And then that misconception, you had me. Now, what did I try? And it was really, really good.
I think I heard you say that you tried Betwixt.
Yes.
And interestingly, Betwixt got its name, which people have trouble pronouncing, because there's an old saying, betwixt and between, which means kind of like a bridge or between, or if you were, and that's what we wanted that cider to be like. We wanted it to be apple forward enough, so we chose fruit that would have lots of aroma and so from the time that you smell it all the way to its long fruity finish, it would be a total apple experience, but not so sweet that you can't finish the rest of your dinner. So for us, making cider is about selecting fruit that through fermentation will have character that we're looking for, instead of flavoring or sweetening with other things besides apples. So when you drink our cider, it's just fermented apple juice.
And I got to tell you firsthand, if you come here and drop in and visit, you must try the cider. You did a great job with it.
Well, thank you. That would be my husband's area of expertise. He's the cider maker for sure, but I do think he's done a great job.
Now take us there's some great visuals happening here.
Okay, so I guess that we're in the oldest part of the orchard now, but it's constantly in transition. It's hard to watch a tree get pushed out, but farmers are always thinking ahead, 10 years thinking ahead, and so we push out old trees when they take more to maintain than they're producing, and so their life ends, and we push them out, and then there's a period of resting the ground, and so we plant it in cover crops. And interestingly, how we decide when it's time to plant again is we look at what's growing there, whether it be pumpkins or rye or whatever the cover crop is, and when you can't see where the rows of apple trees are anymore, it doesn't grow as well, then we know the ground is back to its
pure state, I guess.
Pure, there you go, pure, yep, exactly. Yeah. That's a great way. Yeah. Ready to take trees again. Sure. And so then we plant, and usually that's 3 to 5 years. So you're looking at replanting in 5 years, and then another 5 years before they're producing. So it's really, so as you look around, it's not like we would ever push out the whole orchard at once, because we'd be 10 years with no apples. So it all happens in stages. So if you look across the way, there are trees that are about 3 years old. If you look right in front of us, there are trees that have been in the ground about 3 days, and then these that have been in the ground for about 30 years. Wow. So it's all over different stages, and it's interesting to watch the cycle.
This has to be a lot of work to maintain. I mean, is that an understatement for you?
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of like a
labor of love.
A labor of love. Truly, it is. If this was like a clock in, clock out kind of job, you just get so that you can't work a piece of land and watch it produce and care for living things all the time and not have a real emotional, sentimental kind of attachment. You just feel so grateful for you get a real connection to the earth when you're growing things and you're farming, and that's what sustains you. It's hard to be I shouldn't say it's hard to be ungrateful. It's easy to be ungrateful, but it's also easy to, when you think about where your Diet Pepsi at the grocery store is coming from, you want to thank the trees or thank the earth or thank God anyway.
I took a quick look around, and you've got some lovely flowers that are available there too.
Yeah, we're all about growing things here. So we do back in the early 70s, when the farm started with the orchard, the cash flow was very uneven. So we had money coming in the fall and then nothing until the next fall. So my husband's family added our first greenhouse all those years ago, just growing spring bedding plants and such. And we've kind of grown and transitioned that into, we still do bedding plants, but we now do gardening classes, and we grow hydroponic produce. And so again, it's trying to stay in touch with what people want and move forward, value added. So here we are with the greenhouses as well.
I know our Toronto listeners would just love to have a visit here because you cover it all here. It's just beautiful to just stand out here and watch and to smell.
Oh, well, thank you. It does smell really good. So it does smell good. And I was smelling the pansies right now. They just smell so sweet. Yeah. So it's a total body experience, and we would certainly, I was just mentioning to you, when people come, it's like welcoming people into your home. And so people visit, we would that feels so good. It's such an honor. You just think, gosh, why would you take things for granted, like the view? People talk about our view from the love letters, and it's gorgeous, but we sadly take it for granted, and it's humbling, and it's such an honor that people would want to visit us. So welcome, and please come.